host of the Real Moms Podcast. If you're a mom, you want to be a great mom, and if you also want to be a great real estate agent, this is your episode. It's going to be a great one. Stay with us, folks. So the big question is this: how do those of us in the real estate industry who have crazy amounts of ambition, how do we think bigger than the building of our own empires? How do we create success and significance, income and impact? My name is Justin Stoddard. This is my co-host Stephanie Peck, and together we bring you the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back again. Excited to introduce today's guest, Shae Spitz, out of the middle of the country, Nebraska, and just an amazing place to be from. I know some great people, and they are from Nebraska. So anyway, Shae, it's a total pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining us today on the Think Bigger Real Estate Podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Just for all of our guests that are listening right now that are real estate agents, tell us what part of the state you're in so that when they have a referral to pass, they know to whom they can go.
Yeah, so I am in the Columbus, Nebraska area, which is about an hour and 15 minutes west of Omaha.
Okay, very good. Now, is that the home of the University of Nebraska? Is that right, or close to? How far are you from that?
Yeah, so UNL would be like southwest or southeast of us a little bit. So they're about an hour and a half. So yeah, we're kind of in a nice little area.
Okay, cool. Love it. All right, now let's hear your journey. You've been in real estate only 7 years, which is enough to be great at it, but not somebody that says, I've been doing this my whole life. Obviously, you're pretty young. But what caused you to want to get into real estate?
It's interesting. I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine who's kind of shifting up her journey as well. But there was several things that played into it. I came up from a family. I grew up in a town that was 600 people. So everybody who owned a property, they've lived there their entire lives. I didn't realize the average, years in a household was 5 to 8 years. I thought it was more like 65 years because my grandparents just celebrated like their 70th year in their house. So it was very interesting to me. I didn't come from a real estate background. My family never came from a real estate background. Everybody owned their own home, but that was pretty much the extent of it. I was actually a case manager for mentally ill adults, and there were several things that played into it. My husband and I started renovating properties kind of on the side. It was kind of a long story, huge investment into a real estate renovation company. We ended up spending $25,000, took it all out on credit cards because we didn't have that kind of money back then at all. And it was the best thing, but the scariest thing that we had ever decided to do. And then we both were working full time at our jobs. And I remember going to my boss, and my caseload was like 32 on average, but the break even for the company was having about 22 people on your caseload. So I went to her and I said, hey, what are the chances of like me being able to get like a bonus anytime I had over 22 people? Because I was just like going. I loved what I did, but I realized that no matter how hard I worked or how little I worked, I was getting paid the same. So I went to her and I said, can I get like a little bit of an incentive? Like I have 32 where some of my coworkers maybe don't have near as much. And she's like, no, I'm sorry, we don't do that. And I'm like, I gotta get out, and I'm like, I don't want to go back to school for my master's degree, spend another $30,000-$40,000 to make another $20,000 a year. Like the math wasn't mathing. And so I decided to get my real estate or start taking my classes. And I said, if I pass on my first time, I'm giving my notice. I passed my first time, I did give 3 weeks notice, instead of 2, but I did give 3. And I remember it was July 9th, 2018, and I sat in the little cubicle and I thought to myself, now what? It was, again, another very scary but exciting venture. I was able to close between July and the end of the year on 14 transactions. And so I had heard that that's pretty good. But I was committed. I hit the ground running. I was making calls. I was door knocking. I was doing all the things. And we had 2 little ones. And I don't think I was pregnant yet with our third one. Not yet, but yeah. So we had 2 little ones and mortgage and all the things, but best thing I could have decided to do.
So fun to hear that. I think I resonate with you in the sense that anytime I've been in a situation where my extra effort doesn't result in extra reward, I start to feel very constrained. And I think that speaks to the DNA and heart of every entrepreneur that's here with us today that's listening to this saying that's exactly why I left, right? The, working for the man, whatever you want to call it, of like, I wanted to be properly compensated for doing extra effort. And for those that are like, like maybe some of your coworkers, right? They're like, I don't want to do extra effort. Like, that's a really great place for them to stay out of the entrepreneurial world. And this country was built on people who have tremendous work ethic and go about doing great things and getting compensated accordingly. So kudos to you for that. Yeah. Now, let's talk about something that I know you're really passionate about. You have 3 little kiddos. So at some point during that journey, you guys either started to have families. Is that right? How old's your oldest?
10. She's 10.
10. Okay. So she was 3 at the time, roughly when you guys got started, right?
Yep.
And did that play into that? Were you like, you know what? I am leaving my little baby girl, at home to go be a caseworker with real estate. Maybe I'll have a little bit better life for her, like some more time with her. What were your thoughts on that?
Not a whole lot crossed my mind. I wanted more flexibility. And one thing that I absolutely love is I've made it to every single one of my kids' field trips, despite whether I wanted to go or not. But my kids wanted me to. I'm like, oh my gosh, sounds good. But I was able to just go to my daughter's, she's in 5th grade now, and she kind of threw it at me at last minute. I had like 3 days notice, and I was able to reschedule everything and cancel everything to be able to do that. Whereas if I was working a W-2 job, there was no way. I'm not the best planner in the entire world. So pre-planning something is not my thing. But I really, it did kind of put a little bit of a toll on my husband and I. And then after he switched too, because he was used to me bringing the kids to daycare, dropping them off, going to work, coming back, picking them up, getting groceries, making the food. And by the time he got home, food was on the table. Kids were, for the most part, taken care of. So that was a shift in our relationship because, yes, I still take the kids to school every single day still. I still pick them up, 2-3 times a week. But he's had to step up a lot more by picking up the kids, taking them to appointments. And really his biggest thing that he had to kind of take on was food, is supper. He's now the one who makes supper. And it was just a huge game changer. But I really realized that I wanted to eventually have a little bit more flexibility. Now that's a very loose term in the entrepreneurial world because people think, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, which is great. But starting out, it's not like that. Starting out, you're working a lot. You're working evenings. You're working weekends. I was just having this conversation with the dentist here in town. He's like, nobody wants to work. They want to work 9 to 3 and that's it. But they want to get paid, like a CEO. Nobody wants to work. And it's so true. Nobody wants to put in that legwork for 3, 4, 5, 10 years to be able to have that flexibility. And I didn't know what to expect getting into it. I remember my dad had told me, he's like, Shae, real estate's really risky. And I'm thinking, well, Dad, you're a farmer and your income is dictated on the weather so that you can't control. So don't tell me real estate's risky. So, but yeah, I didn't really have an idea of how much time it was going to take away. I just knew that we were going to have to adjust, because I wanted to go in at 100% and I did.
Well, I think that same work ethic that had you doing 50% more than maybe the standard, right, in your previous profession, you realize like, I'm going to do more effort than the average person. That's just how I'm wired. That's just what I do, right? Yeah. But now all of a sudden you're applying that in real estate. And I think that there's one fallacy that people fall into, a trap that they fall into, is looking at the lifestyle of somebody who's been doing it for decades and has tremendous leverage in systems in place. And they start to live that lifestyle before they've actually built that. Right? Yeah. The roof of the home doesn't go on before the foundation. The foundation means getting out and digging in dirt, sometimes mud, right? And I think if we bypass that, then we'll be forced back into building someone else's empire. It was really fun. I was visiting my daughter. My oldest daughter is a freshman in college this year. There's a whole entrepreneurial center, and on the wall it says, "Build your own thing, or you'll spend your life building someone else's." And I think that's very true. It speaks to me as an entrepreneur and probably you as well. Talk to us about what you and your husband are now passionate about building. Obviously, you now have 3 kiddos. You added to the to the fold. Talk to us about kind of what gets you guys excited now as you continue to build your real estate empire.
So, we actually work with 2 different companies, which kind of sounds weird. People are like, oh, why don't you guys work together? And maybe someday it'll happen that way. But right now it works for us that I'm with EXP and he's with American Legacy. He specializes in land, and don't get me wrong, the land world that's another beast. You know, residential, people are always building and buying and selling and moving, where land, they're obviously not making any more of it. And usually it's when somebody dies, and when they die, it's either going to a family or a neighbor. So the land world is a completely different beast. I'm also working on a 75-acre multi-use development. That's an interesting one. All that really has tested everything in my body on what just mental toughness, mental strength, and just being able to like set aside some conflicts and issues and be able to just like keep going forward. It's hard in the entrepreneurship world to always see the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of times you get stuck in the mud and it gets dark and you're like, what do I do now? But you got to keep going. You know, one of my favorite quotes is like, you're going through hell, why stop now? Like, you just got to keep going. And
I love that.
yeah, but it's true, because so many people give up in the entrepreneurship world right before their breakthrough. And I would say that's a testament to my husband, is like, he has been grinding for the last 4 or 5 years in the land world, which he's done pretty well. But like, it's ebbs and flows. It's high highs and low lows. And this year, within the last like 2 months, it has just like exploded. But I will tell you, 99, and myself included, 99% of the people out there probably would not have stuck with it as long as he did. You know what I mean? I think I kind of went off on a tangent on that. I'm not sure, what was your question again?
It was what you're excited about. And I think, I mean, you're essentially sharing the breakthroughs as well as the struggles, right? Which is part of it. You don't get the breakthroughs without the struggles. So I love it.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your podcast. Obviously it's about, it's about moms, right? And tell me what's the goal of, like, what do you want your listeners, I guess, to take away from what you share with them?
I want everybody, but primarily moms, to know that they're not alone in this entrepreneurship battle as a mom. Because what happened with me and how that got started was, I actually had like a mental breakdown a little over 2 years ago. A true mental breakdown. Like, I couldn't eat, I wasn't sleeping, and there was nothing specific that happened. And I mean, I lost 18 pounds in a matter of 2 weeks. And I was sleeping maybe an hour a day. It was awful. It was the worst thing. I would never wish it upon anybody, any enemy whatsoever. And that, I remember going on a walk one morning, and I was standing on my porch, and I was like, I have to go on a walk. It sounds silly, but it was the hardest thing I forced myself to do, was just going on a walk. Anybody who knows me, like, fitness is my thing. Like, I love working out. I do it every day. I didn't work out for 2 weeks. And I remember standing on my porch, and I was like, I have to go on a walk. And so I went on my walk, and I do like a prayer walk, and it just kind of came to my mind. It's like, you need to create a community of other mompreneurs, because I have friends who are like W-2 employees. Nothing wrong with that at all, but I can't talk to them the way I would somebody who's an entrepreneur. And then I also have a hard time connecting or talking to somebody in the entrepreneur world who doesn't have kids, because you're trying to be a good mom, but you're trying to grow a business, because I have this drive, and that's like where I want to go and succeed, but I want to be able to be the best mom that I can, have that patience. And so it's a constant tug and pull, and you feel a little bit of mom guilt. So that's kind of where I started, is we actually created a community here locally of mompreneurs, which then led to me starting a podcast that I started Real, REAL, because it was supposed to be real estate, something. And I was like, no, I want it to be all mompreneurs, not just dedicated to real estate agents.
Love that. Boy, I think finding your community, right? You talk about the breakdown that you went through. And I think at some point we've all gone through that. If not, maybe you have that to look forward to, right? And it really, that comes down to really being willing to push yourself far outside of your comfort zone, right? I mean, I think if there's not at some point a breakdown, there's not a breakthrough, right? It means that you're maybe living a little too comfortable. I mean, you think about the story of your husband, who year after year after year battling away, and now he's having the breakthrough, right? In selling land. And I think that just has to be, I don't know if I'd put it on your bucket list to go all the way to like having a breakdown, but yeah, right. There's something about being at the edge of your own sanity. And I say that lightly, because I don't mean to downplay what some people have gone through, but being at the edge of like, I don't know that I can do this. And I heard you lean on two very important things that I think are at the heart of this show. One is faith, right? very much people that resonate with this show are oftentimes people who have deep faith, and they realize that there are unseen forces that are available to help as a loving father can and wants to be. And when you look to there and seek that, you can find it. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I think if you, whether you already know that or you want to know that, that's something to look into, right? Because that will help you push yourself to another limit because you tap into a power that's much bigger than you. The second is fitness, right? Having this reliance upon, or not this reliance upon, but being able to get out and have stress released from your body, right? Through physical exercise, smelling fresh air, getting outside of your office, like just getting out, even either talking to someone you love or talking to the heavens above, right? All of that can be so therapeutic and really help any of you right now that might be going through a breakthrough. Just get out, go for a walk, right? Like Shae said. I love that. I love that. Talk to me about how you're able. I think this is maybe a dilemma or a quandary that some moms face, right? Especially when maybe their spouse is in the business as well, right? How do you separate that and turn it off? Or do you? And how do you really kind of draw the line between like it's mom time, right? Like I really want to focus on my kids and yet all your clients still want you. Are there some things that you've learned in that process?
I have. Now, doesn't come without failure, to say the least. I do want to go back to that walk real quick. So one thing that, talking about faith and going on that walk, I said I went on a prayer walk. I had learned this from John Gordon. And so prayer is praise God, repent for your sins, ask God for forgiveness or ask God for something. You want to for yield to his perfect timing. You want to expect that he is going to show up. It's not always going to be in the exact way that you're praying for it, but he has a bigger plan for you. And then ours being open to receiving whatever it is that God is giving you. And then also having that higher power, whether it's God or, whatever you want to believe in, but having a higher power outside of you gives you a little bit of sense of, it's a little bit of freedom, that you don't have to take it all on yourself, that there is a higher power and there is a greater good. But so going back to kind of redirect me, where was I going to go with that?
First of all, I have to just say that is amazing. I love John Gordon, by the way. And that acronym that you just shared with us is a fantastic recipe for a walk. Love it, folks. All right. So the question I asked is, how do you give focused time to those you love when there's so many demands in a career that just doesn't have hours many times, right? What have you learned about that?
So I've learned a lot. My mornings are my time, and my kids, good or bad, however you want to look at it, started to get up earlier because they want to like work out with me and do all the things, which is great. And I love it. But at the same time, I'm like, that's my time. Like, go sleep. They're like, oh, mom, can you wake me up at 5:30? I'm like, no, that's my time. But my time is in the mornings. I love my workouts, reading or reading the Bible, and just having that extra. I try to get up at 4:30. It's usually like 4:45. And then we're usually starting to get the kids up at 6:45 if they're not getting up early. So I get that 2 hours to myself, which is fantastic. Now, the other thing that I've learned is you have to set boundaries with clients. Now, you're going to have a few clients who you can trust that, okay, if I respond to them here at 8 o'clock, they're not going to take advantage of me. Whereas I've had other clients that I know that I'm not going to respond to them, like maybe after 6 or before 8 a.m. That's generally where I'm at, is I'm not going to do that unless it's a time crunch situation, because most things I'm not going to be able to solve after 6 o'clock. I also do 100% satisfaction guaranteed with all of my listings. So I had a seller take me up on that. And it just wasn't working out between him and I. He was expecting me to answer phone calls at 10:30, answer phone calls before 4:30. Like, I'm not doing that. No, I am not going to deal with it. And so really setting those boundaries. And I find that when you do set those boundaries, people tend to actually respect you a lot more. Now, that's hard to do when you're first starting out because you want to jump at anything and everything. I did that too. I don't want to say don't do that, but you need to be, especially when you're building your business, but you need to be cognizant, because if you do that too often all the time, you're gonna lose the reason why you went into to be an entrepreneur in the first place, which is your family. You're gonna start feeling that strain between you and your spouse. You're gonna feel that strain between you and your kids. And I'm telling you this because I have experienced it. My husband and I have gone through some tough times. We're better than ever now, but it didn't come without a cost, because I'm still working on it. But we're a lot more open with communication when it comes to like, hey, we're negotiating some deals, so I'm going to have to do this. Or what I do now, if it's an urgent thing, is, okay, great, we're going to jump on a call to go over this offer or, the listing contract, but it's going to be after the kids go to bed. So it might be 9 o'clock. So that's, and I'm really involved with my kids' activities. I do a lot of coaching, and I have found that if I put my family time and stuff in my calendar first, those are appointments. You don't need to tell people, oh, I have my kids' baseball game. You can, right. But as sad as it is, people are like, okay, well, we got to do this. So if you tell them you have an appointment, that's really what I do. My kids, my husband, our date nights, all that goes into my calendar as appointment times. And those are appointments. And I need to treat those just like I would treat a legitimate listing appointment.
I love it. I want to maybe suggest to the audience the recipe that Shae laid out for us here. I call it the 5 F's, right? Faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. It's kind of how I guide the goals in my life. And our schedules, even though we're in different time zones, so it's not actually the same time, are very similar. For me, faith and fitness happen in those 2 hours before my family gets up. And then I've got time getting kids to school, loving on them, right, get them out the door. And then it's finance time, right? My job as a provider is to make those hours work, right? And then in the evening, it's fun time. It's go to their activities, have family dinner together, and kind of whatever your life situation looks like. I would encourage you to maybe think about that as a way for you to kind of time block out your life. And I think, Shae, you've obviously created success with that. For me, that's been a tremendous benefit to me as well. And I agree with you. I think the very most important clients we'll ever have are, those people in our lives who we love the most. And they should be treated as the most important appointments. So I love that. So good. In parting here, Shae, are there words that of kind of wisdom you could give to a mom who's maybe not quite at the confidence level that you are, or the success level that you have? What would you say to them today to really help them? And it doesn't have to be a mom. It could be a dad, right? Who's in that same thing, that family's important, and as is creating a great business that really provides for their family well. What advice would you have for them?
It's more about fire, ready, aim. No. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. You fire, ready, aim. So you're never going to like aim, ready, fire. No, throw that out the window. It's just like having kids. You're never going to be ready. You have to just kind of like rip off the Band-Aid and just do it. You've heard the saying, like, fake it till you make it. I think it's more of like faith it till you make it. Like, you have to absolutely believe yourself, because you're going to have people who are going to doubt you 100%. And if you don't have people who are doubting you, you're not doing it big enough. You need people to talk about you. You need people to have that idea, like, I don't know, Shae, that sounds a little, you're right. It sounds scary. And if I'm not going to step outside my comfort zone, you're not growing. And I truly believe that's why people have midlife crisis, is because, they're told, go to school, go to college, get a job, blah, blah, blah. They get into that job, and then they're just comfortable. They're comfortable doing the things that they do. And then they wake up one day and they're like, that's not what I want in life. And then they start rethinking everything. And that's truly what I believe why people go through midlife crisis. Because if you're doing what you absolutely love to do, whether it's hard or not, and easy sometimes, hard sometimes, you're never growing. And I don't foresee me ever going through midlife crisis. Maybe I will, I don't know. But I'm constantly changing and trying new things. Like when I have like the intuition, or God speaks to me, my intuition is like, hey, you need to go do this. I'm like, shit. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to go give that a whirl. Prime example is I bought a church when my husband told me no. It was an abandoned church. And he flat out told me no. He's like, Shae, we're not doing this. I'm like, but we might. And then I made an offer and it was accepted. And now it's this like beautiful Airbnb that we have here locally. So people need to follow their intuition. So many people, I think, have it, but they're not listening to it. They're not... Or it sounds so scary that they're like, I can't do that. No, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. So that's like a development that we're working on. We're talking about, changing up who the managing manager of the entity is going to be. And I literally was driving by the development ground and I said to myself, I said out loud, I was like, shit. Sorry, I don't know if you cuss on this your podcast.
I don't, but we do now, folks.
I'm sorry. I was like, shoot. I have to. Like, I just had this intuition, or God was like, Shae, you need to step up and be that managing manager. And I'm like, all right. And my husband's like, he's like, Shae, I really don't want you to. I'm like, I know, but I have to. Like, I don't know what it is, but I have to. So I don't know, just following your intuition. I don't think people get lucky. It's just the people are seeking opportunity and abundance. Always look at that, because if you're living in scarcity, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So look at abundance and opportunity.
I think a question that I have to remind myself to ask where it's like, well, I can't do that. It's like, but if I did, what would have to happen? Right. And I think that again is taking off kind of the mortal eyes and putting on spiritual eyes to say, okay, there's other help available that I don't necessarily can't see. But if it were to happen, right? Yeah. I realize I can't. But if it were, like, what would have to happen? All of a sudden, you start to think bigger, right? And you start to take off the blinders and realize that there's so much more that we, as professionals, as parents, can do to make an impact in this world. And all of a sudden, life gets really fun because all of the limitations that we as a society maybe put upon ourselves all of a sudden start to go away. And all of a sudden, what I've found happens when you start to ask those questions, all of a sudden you start to realize that like who you know and or who you know who knows somebody. And all of a sudden you're not very far away from having a solution to everything, right? When you follow again those promptings, those intuitions. So such a fun conversation, Shae. We're
one
so
thing I
go
want
ahead,
to
you
play
were
off of that, I apologize, is like, don't ask yourself, can I? Like you say, how can I? You know, because if you start asking open-ended questions, then it gets your mind thinking. Because if you say, oh, can I do this? No. Then, but if you say, how can I? Okay, well, I know this person, I know that person, I know this, I have this system. And then it just, like you said, it just opens so many more doors and you might be a lot closer than you think.
Totally. Shae, this has been so fun. I feel like we're so aligned in so many ways. I love what you're doing. I'm so excited for you and your family and the amazing legacy that you're creating for them, right? A mom who puts them first and yet leads by example. I was raised by a mom like that who built an incredible business, and yet she was at everything, right? Just like she was at everything. And for me, it wasn't just that I knew she loved me, but she actually showed me a path on how to have both, which is the theme of this show, to have both a successful business and a significant life. And I thank her for that because she was a mom who loved us more than anything, and she showed us the path on how to also create greatness in business. So been so fun to talk with you, Shae. I love this topic. I think moms have the greatest influence in the world, period. They are influencing the next generation in ways that they don't even know. So thank you so much for your contribution today. So fun to have you here on the podcast. Look forward to staying in contact. And to all of our loyal listeners out there, we're grateful for you. We're thankful for all the big thinkers, Big Thinker Nation. I maybe just gave us that name. And my final 3 words that I want to invite all of us, you're familiar with me saying, which are go think bigger. And Shae, thank you for helping us do that today.
Thank you, Justin.